All right. Yeah. Just one second. Yeah. Let me share my screen. Yeah. So what we did till yesterday is basically we've made all the admin side pages, and we've also touched up on a few of the like optional things which we can do. So what today we will be doing is we will be using the we'll be creating the user side pages. So the index and then the cart and the orders pages. So right now the index page is just an empty page. So let me activate the VNs. And let me run the server. Okay. So as you can see right now, we have the project done for the admin side. So we can create, we can see, we can edit, we can delete categories and the products. We can also have a dashboard, but then I've not done it till now because it's not the core requirements. So let us try to finish all the core requirements first. So next, what we will be trying to do is, so right now we are the admin. So let's say I log out and log in as the normal user. So this user dashboard page. So this is the place where the user should be able to look at all the categories and all the products and also add them to cart. So let's see how we designed it in Figma. All right, yeah. So the way we designed it in Figma is basically we'll have the top bar, which we already have, and then we'll have a search bar. So we'll have to implement this one. And then we will have a page full of basically cards. So we'll have one card for each category, and then inside we'll have one card for each product of that category. So something like that we will implement, maybe not directly one-to-one exactly the same style, but yeah. So I will just create the skeleton of this, and then we'll keep on styling it as and when required. All right, so let's start with the main page first and do the search afterwards. So I'll just create a HTML for the search, but then not add anything to it right now. So let me just create a search bar.html. And right now I'll just not have anything here. I'll just say search bar. And in the index, let me just include that. All right. So now you can see we have the search bar here. So let us not worry about how this will be implemented. So we'll do that later. Let us now focus on the main page. So let me just create a horizontal rule. And now here, what we will do is we will be showing each products of each category. So firstly, what we have to do is in the routes, we'll have to send the categories. So right now, if I search for the, one second, if I search for the index, one second. Yeah, if I search for the index, you can see that in the index, we have just rendered the index.html template. So what we will do is, after all these checkings, we will get the categories also. So we'll get the categories equals category.query.all from the database, and we'll simply pass that to the template. So now the template has access to the categories. So let's just see if it's working. So let us print maybe the length of the categories. So we saw, I think day before yesterday, that how to use these filters to do basically the same as Python functions. So we can do categories and then pipe length to get the length. Yeah, so you can see now the categories array is given to the template properly. So it's telling there are two categories. So let us quickly create a basic structure where we can show each category. So let me first create a div which will include everything inside it. So we'll have a categories list div, and in here we will basically be running a for loop. So j.for for category in categories. Sorry. categories. All right. Yeah. So this loop will basically iterate over each category, and every time it's inside the loop, the variable category will hold the value of one category at a time. So let us first print the name of the category to see if it's working. So as you can see, yeah, electronics and furniture both are there, but they are not styled right now. So let me quickly put maybe this inside a h tag. So sorry. Yeah, what I'll do is I will select this line and then do Control Shift P. So if you want, I can turn on screen key. So I'll select this line and then do Control Shift P, and I'll do wrap with abbreviation. So here I'll make it, let's say, H2. So now we have separate headings for each category. And as and when we have more categories, this will create more headings. Now, between the headings, let us also show the products. So as you remember, in our models.py, we already have a relationship called products in the category. So we don't have to worry about anything now. We can simply refer to that products array of each category. So what we can do now is we can do another for loop, j.for, and this time it will be for product in category dot products. So what this basically means is for each category which I am currently in now, refer to all the products which are inside it, and then run a for loop again on top of it. So then we will treat each product one by one as the variable product. So let us see if the we are able to fetch them properly. So let us see product.name and maybe some symbol after each. So you can see for electronics, we have earphones. For furniture, we don't have anything. So let us create a few products so that developing this page like looks a little better. So let me quickly log in as admin just to add a few products. All right, so I'll add maybe another category. So food or something. And in electronics, let me add a few products here. So maybe speakers and let's say, I don't know, computer or laptop. All right. And then for the furniture, let me add a few things. And finally, for the food, maybe I'll add one or two things. All right. So let me now log out and log in again as the normal user. All right. Yeah. So as you can see, for each category, we get each product's name. So the fetching part is working. Now let us see how we can like create a simple card like the one which we planned to do like here. So let us open Bootstrap again. And here we can search for card. So if you press enter, you will see that there are multiple card type elements which we can use. So yeah, let us use this one. So I'll just simply copy this and we will paste it in our code. So I'll paste it in place of this and let me indent it also. All right. So for Bootstrap card to work, we basically need to have a div and then have the class of card in it, and everything else works automatically. So we need to have, so we can have an image. So right now, let's use what we were doing yesterday, right? So let us use the pick some photos. So https pick some.photos slash 200 by 200, something like that. And then class equals card image top. And let's not worry about the alt right now. Maybe we can make it the product's name itself. All right. So in the body, the card title, obviously we will put the product's name. And now let's see what other details we have about the products. Right. So ID, obviously, we don't need to show it to the normal user because it does not make sense for them to know what is the ID of a product. So they will know the price name. They'll also know the price and the category they're already seeing, right? So the heading on top is the category. So the name, the price, the quantity, and the manufacturing date. These are the 4 things they need to know. So inside now in the cart text, let us, so let me quickly change till the dot and put a new line. And here what we can do is we can have, let's say, the product dot price. So this will be price. And similarly, I can have product dot quantity, and also let's say product dot mandate. So right now these will not be styled, but we will add the styling later. And then at the end we'll have a button. So the button will not say go somewhere. This will basically say add to cart. So we will write add to cart. And right now I'm not setting the URL correctly. So let's just keep a blank URL, and we'll, after we have created the route, then we will put that URL here. And also instead of blue, let us make it green. All right. So now you can see we have each of the cards. The photos are not working. I'm not sure why. Let me check once. Oh, yeah, my bad. So instead of 200x 200, this should be 200/200. So let's try again. Yeah, as you can see. Okay, but then what is happening is basically it's fetching that link only once and then caching the result and storing it again. So instead of getting multiple images for each of them, we are getting the same image. Okay, so that's not a really big problem right now because we are anyway using it for placeholder images. So let us have this for now. All right. So another thing which we are seeing is basically each card is coming in a new line, right? So we don't want that. We want it to be coming side by side. So one thing which we can do is enclose all of this in one container. So let's say this entire thing, I will select and then I'll do Control Shift P and I'll do wrap with abbreviation. So here I'll say products maybe. Yeah, so we'll have a div called products, and inside we'll have all this. And why we are doing this is because now we can have a block style, and in that we can basically let me close the block also. Yeah, and block, yes, and we don't need this one. So in here I can define a style sheet, and here I can say that the products, yes, so basically this one. So the products, which is the list of the products, we have display flex, and we'll have flex wrap. So I want the things to go from left to right, but then if it reaches the edge, then just come back to the new line and justify content center. So let's see if this looks better. Yeah, so as you can see, right? So now each category is centered. That's because we have the category list also, display flex. And here we have flex direction column so that each category is one below the other. So if we have here row instead, then this will basically be one after the other. So that's not something we want. So we'll have transaction column and align items center. So what this will do is basically everything will be centered and we will have these cards going from left to right. And if there are, let's say, multiple cards, so more than 3 or 4 or 5, it will come to the new line. All right, so let's add a few more styles and then we will move on to creating the route. So hopefully everything is clear till now, right? So we're basically just doing styling at this point and some simple Jinja templating. All right. So for the price, most probably you will either want to show the dollar sign or the Indian rupee sign. So if you usually want to put some symbol in HTML, you don't put it directly because it may also have a special meaning in the HTML language itself. So what you will do is you will basically search for Indian rupee HTML code. And this will basically give you HTML code here. Not this. Yeah, just let's just open it. Yeah, as you can see, this is the euro, and then similarly we should have rupee somewhere. I think, yeah. So yeah, this is the code 8377. So let us now come here, and the way you insert HTML code is basically you start with an ampersand, and then you give the code. So here it's 8377 without any space, and then you end with a semicolon. So this basically tells HTML that whatever is between the end and the semicolon is a HTML code. So I think this should work now. So if we refresh, okay, so this is not working. 1 second. Let's search for the Indian replaceable code, and let's see if there is another website which gives us the correct thing. All right, yeah. So we need to put a hash of before the number. So yeah, let's come here and put a hash here. And yeah, now you can see we have the rupees symbol and then the price. So I'll quickly also style these so that they are on their separate lines, and maybe we can have some text before it. So let me just say price and then the price. And so both of these, maybe I can wrap it inside the dot price. And similarly, I can have, let's say, a strong which says quantity, and wrap these into a quantity. Sorry. And then finally, this mandate, I can have a title of, let's say, manufacturing date. And also wrap this into a mandate. All right. So what this will do is basically put them in their separate lines because they are divs now. And yeah, so this might be good enough. So we can also do some styling, like instead of showing the date in the year, month, day format, we can also show it in some other format. But for right now, let's stick with this. All right, so there is one more thing which we have not added till now, which we need to have here. So if you look at the design, we also need to have a input for the quantity, right? So how many quantity you want to add to cart. So there are two ways to do this. One way is you can ask for the quantity here itself, and the add to cart will add that many quantities to the cart. Another way is you don't have this here, you just have add to cart button here. And once they open the cart, this quantity field will be editable. So they can come and increase or decrease it. So both are fine. It's totally up to your design decision. So for now, let us stick with this one where we ask the quantity directly in the home page. So for that, what we will do is we will need a form and the input inside that form. So let me quickly create a div first. So the quantity input maybe, and here we'll have a form. And right now I'll not set the method or anything, but then we will do this once we have actually created the add to cart route. All right, and in here we will have the input basically. So input type is number, name, quantity, ID quantity, minimum should be 1. And yes, so right now this validation is enough in the front end, but then in the back end we will add further validation later. So the maximum is basically how many are present. So right now there are only one present. So obviously I cannot add to cart multiple items. So if there are only 10 items present, then I can only add to cart up to 10 items. So that is the maximum allowed here. And the default value is 1. So let's do this. And now you can see the like this is not looking very good. So let us quickly add that bootstrap class here, which is form control. And I think we can also make this a new line so that it's easier to read. All right. Yes. So this is basically the quantity. And so right now it's a bit hard to understand what this means. So let us also add a label for this. So before the input, we'll add a label for the quantity. This will say quantity. And instead of saying quantity here, let us say available, so that it's not confusing why there are two quantities. All right. Yeah. So as you can see, we have available here, and then quantity we can go up to one only. So if we have more than one present, we can go up to that number. But then for now, we can go up to only one. And then finally, the add to cart. So the button does not work right now, but once we have created the route to add to cart, we will be instead of it being a anchor tag like it is right now, we will have it inside the form itself as a submit button. So just let me know if what we did till now is clear and makes sense, and then we can move forward. Yeah, simple enough, right? All right. So now let's think about the route now. So let us create a route. So right now we don't have any add to cart route. So yeah, let's come here. So all these are basically the admin things. So create, read, update, delete. So now let's have some of the user routes. All right. So we already had the index up above. Let me maybe move it down here so that it's easier to refer. All right. These are the categories: admin required, admin required, admin required. This logout is a common thing. Profile is a common thing. Index, yes. So only this index is user. So let me move it all the way to the down. All right. So what we will do now is we will create a add to cart. So for the add to cart, we need to provide the quantity, but that will be inside the form body itself. But in the URL, we can provide the ID of the product. So let's say add to cart and then the product ID. So we provide the product ID, which they have to add to cart, but the quantity is inside the form details. So we create a method, let's say add to cart, and we put the auth required, not the admin required, because the user should be able to do this. And here we will have the product ID. All right. So first things first, we will obviously check if the product exists. So we'll do product is product.query.get product ID, and if it does not exist, we will not do anything at all. So we'll tell product does not exist. Please see whether you have given the correct thing or not, and we will redirect them back to their home page. Next thing is we will take this quantity which they have given. So if you remember, we have named it, name is quantity. So we will take it from that same name. So we'll say quantity is request.form.get. So it won't be args, but it will be form, because we are sending it as a post request. Oh yeah, my bad. I have to also include that here. So that's why Copilot was confused. Why are we doing form? Because I have not mentioned method is post here. All right. Yes. So request.form.get quantity. And now that we have the quantity, we also have to check if that is a valid quantity, right? So we will now check that if quantity. So let me first typecast it, or let me do it here itself. So try quantity is the int of the quantity. And if we are not able to do it, that means the user has sent some text instead of a number. And then we'll again tell them that please enter a number or invalid quantity. And if it was possible, then we'll basically do the numeric checking, right? So we'll first check if quantity is less than 0, then we'll, so let us also check in the same line, or quantity is greater than the product dot quantity. So this is the number of items present. So then we'll say invalid quantity. And let us also give the range directly here, right? So should be between 1 and, so this is a way of adding things to the string, but then usually we use f strings now. So let me show how to do it in f string directly. So instead of doing this, what we will do is we will do directly here product.quantity. So if you put an f before a string and then you put curly braces, you can put any variable inside and it will interpolate it directly. All right, so we have done the checking for quantity of both less than or equal to 0 and greater than quantity. So now that the quantity is also correct and the product also exists, we will simply then create this object and add it to our memory database. So we'll create a cart object now, and so it may also exist in our database, right? So let's say, let me open a notepad here. Yes. So let's say one user has already carted one product. So let's say P1. So they already have that product in their cart. So in their cart, they have, let's say, P1, and they have two quantity of it. So let's say next day that guy comes again and he did not check his cart and he added the product P1 again of, let's say, three quantity into his cart. So if he is adding three quantity of P1 in his cart, so ideally what we will do is we will not create two instances, right? So we will not create P1 with 2 and then P1 with 3. So for each user and for each product pairing, there should only be one row in the cart or table. So what we will do is we'll just take the 2 which was there and we'll add the 3 to it. So this will just be P1 and it will say 5. So whenever we're adding to cart, we'll also see if that item already exists in the cart. So if it does, we will simply increase the quantity. But if it does not, then we will basically create the entry in the cart. All right. So yeah, so let's first check if that exists. So cart is cart.query.filter by, and we need to filter for both the user and the product. So if someone else has added, we don't care about that. We care if our user has added to his cart and if he has added this exact product to his cart. So if he has done that, so and there should usually be only one instance of that. So we'll just take the first of that. So if cart does exist, so if that row is there, then what we do is we simply increase the quantity. But another thing which I want to do is I want to check whether if we are increasing the quantity, then is it now overflowing from the available quantity in our like the amount of items I have in my warehouse. So I'll see now if quantity plus the cart dot quantity is greater than the product dot quantity. So let's say we still have present in our warehouse 5 items and or let's say 4 items, and he told I want to buy 2 earlier. So I told yes, that's fine. And then he came and he told I want to buy 3. So in our first check, which we are doing here, in the second time we'll also say yeah, 3 is less than 4, so that's fine. But now that we know that he already wanted to buy 2 earlier and now he wants to buy 3, so his cart in the end will have 5, and that should not be possible. So then again we'll say that okay, you can add 3 but you have already added 2, so the total of 5 is still something which you cannot buy. So we'll then do if quantity plus cart dot quantity is greater than product dot quantity, then invalid quantity should be between 1 and product quantity. All right. So otherwise, what we do is we basically add that. So cart dot quantity plus equals quantity. But if let's say he does not have this in his cart, then what we need to do is we need to create that object. So then else what we will do is we will create a new cart object, and this will obviously have the username as that person's username and the product as that product, and the quantity will just be the quantity which he entered now. And then we will add that cart row in the cart table. And either case, whether we are increasing the value or whether we are adding a new value, in the end, we have to do a db.session.commit so that we can put outside the if also. So we can obviously do this both times, once inside this else, once inside the if, but that is not required because either case we are doing it, so we can just put it outside the if condition. So till now it is fine, right? Just let me know if there's
Yes,
anything. Yeah,
it's fine with me, Shan. Maybe others can say that.
yeah. I don't know why I exited from my phone. Let me join from there. Yeah. All right. So yes. So what we have done now is we've created the route to the add to cart, but then it is not called anywhere. So we can quickly now change the index page. And as you remember that for
Shan, I
yeah,
just have one question.
yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
we need to create a card, right? So it
Yes.
is already created, or when? I mean, I'm just
Yes. So if
I
it
cannot
is,
able to recollect where we created or something like that.
yes, so we are creating it here basically. So if it is not created, first we are checking if it is already created. If it is,
Okay,
then we
okay,
are just increasing the quantity. But if it is not created, then we are creating this object, right? So this is the constructor.
okay. In line 393 only, we are just creating an instance in the DB. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes, exactly.
Say for example, if the user is coming the next day, we need to get the same card and we have to add it to the
Yes,
same thing, right?
yes, yes. So when he's adding the product first time, we are
Okay.
coming to the else part and we are creating it. And the next day, if he's adding the same
So
user, the
we'll go
same
to the
product,
if part.
yes. So we'll get
Okay.
here and this will not be null. So this will be some value. So we'll then be in the if part.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So now that we have created the route, so the name of the function is add underscore to underscore cart. So let us come to this form now. And in the action, so usually earlier, every time we have created a form, what happened was, 1 second, so let me create a new page. Yeah, so what happens was, let's say we were in a category slash, so I'm not writing the entire thing, category slash add, and we were showing the form for a get request, and then directly from there, when they were sending the post to the same URL, we were doing the like backend handling. So that's why for most of our forms, we had the action empty. And if you keep the action empty, what HTML does is basically sends it to the same URL it is currently in. But now for this one, as you can see, we have multiple forms in the same page, right? And we don't want to send that to our index. We want to send it to the add to cart. So here we will have to actually mention the action here. So the place where we send the request to. So here we will be using the URL for again. And the name of the method is add to cart. All right. So, and for the
Okay.
add to cart, yeah,
So if can I go back to the same place?
yeah.
Yeah. So if the action is mentioned to what URL you are referring to here, the add to card URL, the backend
Yes, exactly. So,
API you are saying
yeah, so we have not declared a API per se, but then yeah, this route basically. So if I'm
this
doing
route. Okay.
yeah URL for add to cart, this will find this method and then see which endpoint it is mapped to. So it will translate to this.
It okay. It will translate to
Yes,
this.
but then
Okay.
for to translate to this, we also need to provide the product ID,
But
right?
ID.
So yes, we have to also mention that here. So we have to give the product ID equals, and then because we are in a for loop for each product, right? So we can simply use this product dot ID. So for each product, we are taking its ID and giving it while building the link. So for each card, this form will go to somewhere else. So this will go to one link, this will go to some other link, and basically the same link, but then the ID will be different.
But the display the page will be the same page. It will not move away from the page, but
Yes, exactly.
the
So
the,
the
the,
page
the
is
form
same.
action will go to that,
Yes.
and the control will come back here, or it will be here in the same page, right?
So that's up to our backend, right? So in our backend, as you can see, okay, yeah, I actually forgot to do that. Thanks for reminding me. So after committing, we then have to then return something, right? So what we will do is,
Yeah.
first of all, we'll tell them that, okay, it's done successfully, and then we will return them back to the URL index page. So this is how we basically control the
No,
flow.
if we didn't give the index, can I comment it? If we don't give
Yeah.
it, what will happen?
Then it will throw an error. So Flask will throw an error. So any endpoint, be it post or get, in the end, it has to return something, either a redirect or a render template. So
Okay.
if we, or some string also is fine. But then if you're not returning anything, Flask will simply refuse to even go to that page. It will throw an
Okay.
error. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. So now after everything is done, we basically redirect them to the index page. So let us see now if this is working. So obviously we don't have the cart pages to see if we have added to cart, but we can go to the database to see. So let's say I want to add this to our cart. So if I do add to cart, oh, let me reload the page because the link is still the old one. All right, yeah. So now I think I have saved this. Yeah, so if I do add to cart, okay, this is, okay, yeah, my bad. So I have changed the form, but then I've not changed the this one. So this is still an anchor tag. So instead of an anchor tag, what we will use is we will use a input. So we will have a input of type submit, and the value will be add to cart, and here we will have the classes. So classes button and then button success. So instead of an anchor tag, which obviously can only get give a get request, so it can only go to pages, we will use the submit button so that we actually submit the form and give a post request. All right. So I think, yeah, success spelling is wrong. Yes. So now we have this button again, and if I press this, okay, so it's doing a method not allowed because we forgot to mention the method in the form. So I thought I'll add it later, and then I forgot. So yes, what we have to do is right now it's trying to do a get request, which we did not declare. So we will just put method is post, and we will try again. All right, so now if I do add to cart, as you can see, product added to cart successfully. So we cannot see that right now because we don't have the cart page created yet. But if I now go to the database and the cart, so you can see there is now one entry. So the user ID one with added the product one into the cart with quantity one. Similarly, the user one can now come and add, let's say, product two into his cart, and here if we reload the database, we get that the user one has added product two of quantity one in his cart. So this was how we did the adding to cart functionality. But then after this, we will have to create the cart page and the orders page and also the buy functionality. So just let me know if there is any doubt till here. Otherwise, we'll take a break and then we'll catch up till the here, and then we will continue after this. All right. Hopefully everything is clear. Yeah. So yeah, let me push this to the GitHub. So we changed basically the route. So we added the routes of the add to cart, and then we changed the home page, and also we created the search bar, but we have not added anything in that yet. All right. All right. I think it has been pushed. Let me see. Yeah, so I've pushed the changes. So just take, I think, 20 minutes should be fine. And just catch up till here. And then we'll resume at 11.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey everyone, hope you're back. So just let me know, stop me if you have any doubts till what we have done till now. Otherwise, yeah, let's continue.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So what we saw till now is the user homepage and the uh, so basically the ability to see all the products and then add them to cart. So we've also added a few like validations so that the quantity should not be more than the available. And then, so even if right now we have not decreased the available because technically the product is still with the company. So I have not bought it. It's just in my cart. So it's still showing available one. But now if I try to cart it again, it will say that you cannot. So if someone else tries to add it to cart, it is still fine. So but then if I am trying to add it to cart, because I already have one quantity of it, if I try to add another one, it will say it cannot be more than one. All right, so now let's implement the search bar functionality so that we can filter the products which is being shown. So if you remember, we added the search bar in a separate HTML. So right now we're just giving the text search bar. So instead of that, let me quickly create a div of class, let's say container fluid. And in here, we can add a few things for the search bar. So let's see what is the recommendation. All right, so it's, yeah. So let's see if this is good enough. So this is basically using the Bootstrap row and column things, which is the Bootstrap grid. So you can learn more about it here in Get Bootstrap if you search for grid. So it will show you what the grid system is. So you can basically create rows and then in each row you can have columns. And if you don't mention how many, it will automatically size them, but then you can also mention the size with a total sum of 12. So each row can have maximum of 12 things, but then you can say, let's say this column is four of those, this is four of those, and this is four of those. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. So you can go over the documentation. There is a lot of things described here, but for us, we will stick to the basics. So as you can see, we have just one column of size 12, and then in that we have the search. So for searching, we will have a form, but we will not make it method post. So post usually is a method which is used for non-idempotent uh, requests. So what this means is once I have made a post request, so this has changed something in the database or something in the backend. So if I make it again, this will make some other changes. So if I basically imagine creating a category or creating a product. So if I say create a category named A, so it will create that category. If I tell it to do it again, it will add another category named A. Whereas get requests are usually idempotent, which means that you can call it once or you can call it, let's say, 1,000 times also. That is the same as calling it once. So there will be no change in the output or there will be no change in the backend, even if you call it multiple times. So search is also something like that. So when we're searching, we're just filtering what we are seeing on our side. So nothing is being changed. So usually we will just send a get request for that. So in the form, we can send the method as get, or even if we remove this attribute totally, it will default to a get. So in that form now, we will just have one text, which is the place where they search, and then one button, which basically is for searching. So if I refresh this now, you can see that there is no endpoint search. So this is doing a URL for search. So for now, let us simply uh, remove that action. All right. So you can see we have a search bar and then we have a search button. So maybe we can do some basic styling. So instead of primary, I can make it button outline primary, and it will have a outline and only be colored when I hover. And as you can see, it's basically flushed to the nav bar. So I can add some margin to the top. So here I can, in the row or in the container fluid itself, I can add a margin top of, let's say, 2 or 3, and this will add a margin. So maybe a little more. All right. So along with the search field, we also want to ask the user what they want to search for. So there are two ways to do this. One way is basically, let's say I search for electronics, so it will show me the category of electronics. And if I search for earphones, it will show me products earphones. So we just take the search input and search for everything in that. Another way is we can have a kind of toggle, so something like this. So we can have a toggle where the user can select what they want to search for. So whether it's the product name or the category name or something else. So if you see the usually the problem statement, it will ask you to be able to search using multiple things, so not just one thing. So let us implement it this way so that we can give the user the choice of searching using either the product name or the category name or the price. We can also search for the manufacturing date, but I don't think we will do that today. All right. So for that, what we need is basically the same thing which we had in the add products page, which is a drop down. And a drop down is done using a select in the HTML. So let me create a input group here. And in here, we will have a select. So this will be the parameter of the search. And let me also name it parameter and ID parameter. So in there, we will have a few options. So right now, let me just hard code the options, but later we can fetch the options directly from the controller. So we'll have the option of, so let's say we'll have 3 options, and the value of each option is, let's say, first one is product name or P name, and what we will show them is product and sorry, product. And then the next one is, let's say, C name or category name, and we will show them category. And finally, we'll also search for the price or yeah, so let's say price. So now we'll have a drop down here. So as you can see, it's not styled. So let us add the bootstrap class here, which is from select, I think. Yes, from select. All right, so now we have a drop down and then this, but let's say I want these side by side. So what I will do is, so this input and this input, I want side by side. All right, so or I think if I remove this, it should also work. Yeah, so as you can see now they are basically like left and right in the same line. So if we add everything inside one input group, it will just group all of them in one line. So we can select the product, the category, or the price here, and then we can select whatever we are searching for. So let's say I set the price and I search for, let's say, 10, and I press the search. So instead of doing a post, it will do a get request, and you can see the parameters of that request in the URL itself. So question mark marks the start of parameters, and then each parameter is separated by a ampersand. So the parameter is price and the query is 10. So we can now use this in the index controller to do the filtration. So because we are not sending a request to any other page, but to the page we are directly in right now. So it's sending to the home page itself. So in the routes.py, in the index itself, what we will do is we will fetch the things that is being sent. So this is optional, obviously. So if we just come to the home, we won't have this. But if we do the search, then we will have it. So even if it is not present, it should not matter to us. So we will fetch the categories, and then before returning the template, one second. Yeah. So before returning the template, what we will do is we will also fetch these things. So one is parameter is equals to request.args.get. So instead of request.form.get, which we use for when we are using a post method. So if you're using a get method, the arguments are stored in the URL itself. So we use args.get. And similarly for the query also, we will get it using request.args. args.get query. All right. So right now we have both of the parameter and the query. So now let's think of how we can do the filtration. So we have basically categories, and then inside each category we have the product, and this is given to us. Yeah, Tanish, go ahead. I think you have sent something in the chat. Let me see. And if you want to keep a history of user searches, should we post and search them? Yeah, if you want to like keep a history, then yeah, usually a post method would be more preferable. You can do it with get method also. So like there's no hard and fast rule in that. So even in the get method, you can basically do everything you do in the post method. So you can make database modifications also. But then yeah, whenever you're doing that, it is usually preferred to put it inside a post like kind of method which handles post request instead of get. Yeah, so if you want to do that, you will usually use a post then. But then in the end, the outcome will be the same, right? So even from the post, as you saw, you can redirect to some other page. So the end process will be the same. So you redirect, or instead of that, you render template to the home page, but then there will be a filtered list of the categories or products. Yeah, so if you are storing the search history, then you will use a post method. All right. Yeah. So now let us see. Yeah. So we have multiple categories, and inside each category we have the product. And this basically relationship or objects are given to us directly by SQL Alchemy. So I cannot simply come and tell that this category contains these, let's say, 5 products, but then I want to have only these 3 in the list temporarily because my user wants to search only these. So we cannot change the object given to us by SQL Alchemy because that will change the database itself. So we don't want to remove those products. We just simply want to not show them. So what we do is for categories, we can simply so we have a list of categories, right? So it's nothing related to the database. So each object is related to the database, but then the list is totally up to us. So if we do category.query.all, we get a list of all objects, but then we can simply filter in that list and take only a few objects and create another list. So we can filter the categories directly in the backend. That is pretty simple. But if you want to filter the products, we usually do it in the Jinja template. So because it's easier to filter while we are showing it. So what we will do is if it's the category which we are filtering, then we'll do it in the backend. But if it's the product, we will do it in the front end so that you can also see both the ways of doing the filtration. All right. So we have got the parameter and the query now. So what we'll do is we'll now see if the parameter is equals to the CNAME, which is the category name, then we can directly do the filtration here that itself. So we'll say categories is category dot query dot filter, and instead of using query dot all, what we do is we use query dot filter, which is which we have already used earlier also. So for the cart we used filter, but we were using filter by because we were filtering by multiple items, and here we are just filtering using the name. So what we do is we do category dot query dot filter, and then we filter by the name. So we do category dot name dot, and the I like is basically a way of doing the SQL statement of I like, which means case insensitive, and then like just means we're not matching the equality, but then we are matching if there is something similar to it. So the percentages means there can be something to the left of this also, and something can be to the right of this also. But then somewhere inside the category name, whether this search query which is given to us exists or not. So we search that and we get a updated list of categories to us. And so let me move this maybe to the bottom because we don't need it earlier. Yeah, so we get the categories filtered, and then we do the return render template with that categories instead. So it will be pretty easy to see if this is working now. So what we do is we come here and we select category, and let us type something like elect. And okay, so it's still not working, right? So it's showing us all the categories, the furniture, the electronics, the food as well. So what is the issue here? Let us see. So the parameter is CNAME, and here the value, yeah, is cname, pname. So let me try again. All right, so let us try to debug what went wrong here. So one thing we can do is we can print it also to the console if we want to check the values which we have. So it will basically come here. So let's say I go here and again do this. So, all right. So the parameter we are getting as none. So most probably the name is something else. All right. Yeah, my fault. I didn't see that Copilot suggested something wrong here. So it's this should also be parameter. Yeah. All right. So let's try it now. If we have like this, yeah, then you can see only the electronics category is being shown and the others are hidden. So if I go to the home page, we have multiple categories, but if I select category and search for, let's say, FO, it will show only the foods category. And you can see we don't have to type the entire name or even the correct uppercase, lowercase thing. So it will just search for that term being present. So the category searching is pretty simple, but then now let's try to do the product name searching. So if we are doing for the product name, what we will usually do is we will pass the query to the front end and we will do the filtration there. So we can also do it in the backend, but then because we are also maintaining the list of the categories, it will be easier to do it in the front end than in the backend. So let's say else if, so elif, the parameter is the p name. Then what we do is we simply just return render template. But now instead of sending just the categories, so we'll send the categories, but then we'll also send the parameter equals the parameter and then the query equals the query. So what this will do is we can now inside the uh, front end or the Jinja template, we can do the filtration. So another thing we can do is instead of sending the query equals query, we can specifically mention that this is the p name which we want to filter with. So when we are in the index now, so as you remember, we did this for loop, right? So inside the for loop now, what I can do is I can check if that is present. So I can simply say j.f, sorry, yeah. So we'll see if the name was sent to us. And so if the name is sent to us, then we will check with the name. So another way we can do is we can see if the param is equals to name. So we can do if param is equals to name, sorry, p name. And so now if that param is equals to p name, then we also have to check whether that the product which we are currently iterating over, it matches that name. So then we will check if that name exists in the product.name. So this is basically a Python way of checking string in another string. So string in string checks if this is a substring of this. But we also want to do the case insensitive thing. So we can also make this into lowercase and this into lowercase. So I think this should be fine. And then, so if this is the case, then we will put this, the entire thing. I think it ends here. 1 second. So this div is for this and this, yeah. So the entire thing we can put here. So if the parameter is p name and the name is present inside the current product's name, then we show the card, otherwise we don't show. But there is also another time in which we will show the card, which is when the parameter is not p name at all. So what we'll do is we'll put the entire thing in a bracket. So if it is p name and it is matching, then we will show, or if parameter is not p name, then also we will show. All right, so if I reload now, 1 second. Oh, sorry, yeah, my bad. So this should be and this should be all. All right. So right now we are searching for the category. So let us now search for the products. I'm not sure if it will work. So let's see. Yeah. So there is some error. Cannot access local variable categories where it is not associated with a value. All right. So yeah, the error is in the routes basically. So we forgot to do this. So I pushed it to the bottom. So it should be here itself. So we'll define the categories to be all the categories, and only if it is CNAME, we will have it as something else, or we can put it inside the elif also. But then, as you remember, we also need it if nothing was searched. So we also need it for this return. So instead of having it 2 times, we can just simply have it outside. All right. So now we can see name is not defined. So this is coming from the name. So this should be pname instead, because the variable name was pname. All right, yeah. So now you can see if I search for the thing here, then we get only the earphones. So we have multiple products now. So if I, let's say, search for something like this in the products, then I get only the speakers. And so we are getting the other categories also. So this is reminding us that the other categories are present, but then the products inside them, they do not match the current search. And it is also case insensitive. So let's say I search for laptop, but then with a small L, it will still show us the laptop. All right, so we have added the product searching and the category searching. So the only thing left is the price searching. So the price setting is also dependent on the price of each product, right? So we are doing a filtration on each product. So usually we will do it inside the Jinja itself. So we'll just add another elif. So every parameter equals price. Then we will just return render template, and we'll not do the filtration in the backend, but we will just send it the parameter and the query, and then we can do the filtration in the front end. So now it will get a little bigger because the if condition now has to check for both the param and the both the product name and the price. So one way we can do this is we can uh, reorder the if condition. So instead of this, what we will have is if param and pname lower in this, or we will then inside this, we will have if param equals the price and the basically, so there are two ways in which we can check the price. So one is, let's say, the price. So right now it's not a great example to show because everything is 1 rupee. So let me maybe add something or change some prices, and then we can demonstrate that. All right. So let's say for the earphones, I make it 500 rupees, and for the speakers, it is, let's say, 2000, and for the laptop, let's say it is 60,000. And then similarly for the furniture, let's say the chair is, I don't know, usually a chair may be around 2000, and the table is, let's say, 10,000. And similarly for the food, let's say the rice is 1 kg, so let's say it's around 60 rupees, and the pulses is also, let's say, around 50 rupees. So we have made multiple prices, so let us now log out and log in as the normal user. So yeah, now you can see all the prices are different, right? So one way is, let's say if I'm searching for the price and I put something around 500. So one thing is it will only show products which are priced exactly 500. So only this will be shown, and then nothing else will be shown. But usually when we are searching for price, we don't want only product which is exactly that price, right? So let's say my budget is 500, I will search for price 500, but I am also fine with something cheaper than that. So what we will do in this is, instead of searching for exact price, we will basically make this as the max price. So any product which is less than this, we will show, and any product which is more than this, which we will not show. So instead of doing equal to, we will now check if the product.price is less than or equals to the price which is sent to us. So if that is the case, then we will show that. And obviously, so if neither of this, so neither the the p name or the price is given to us, so in that case, so if not param, so the param itself is not set, then also we will show the product. So let's see if it's working now. So when we are at the home, we see all the products. So let's say now I want to search for the category of electronics. So I get just the electronics. If I want to search for the product of speaker, so I get just the speaker. And then finally for the price of, let's say, 500 or less. Okay, yeah. So we have one error, which is that we are trying to compare the product.price and the price, but product.price is a float, and then the price, it is taken as a string from the form. So in the backend, before sending this, what we can simply do is we can just say that, so if this is the case, then we can do query is float of query. So this will convert the query into a float as well. Yeah, so if we reload now, yeah, so as you can see, if we search for the price of 500, then it will show me earphones, which is obviously 500, but also rice and dal, which is less than 500. So we can search for max price, we can search for products, and then we can also search for categories. So the main functionality of search is now done. So you can obviously add other things also. So this is a very bare bones search, right? So you can add other things you can search for. You can maybe make this a little more optimized. So right now, as you can see, the line is pretty long. And you can also add some other conditions here, or maybe you can add multiple filters so that person can search for price and product and category name separately. So right now we had a drop down and then we selected, but let's say you have 3 separate input boxes here. So instead of having a drop down in an input box, we have 3 input box, one for product, one for category, one for price. And depending on whichever combination the user has typed something in, all those filtration will be done. So that will be a even better search. So you can also do that. So now, so we will not go into that much, but then now what we will do is we'll just make some things a little better. So as you can see, the size of this is too much, so maybe we can reduce it. And another thing which we can do is, if you remember, the last thing which we searched for was price, right? So in the URL, you can see parameter is price. But here the selection is again back at product, right? And then the search query is also empty. So there is no way for us to know what is being searched for unless we see the URL. So another thing which we will do now is basically, let's say I search for something. So whatever I selected before searching, that should still be selected after I have searched it. So we will quickly see how to do that. So this is similar to how we did it for the add products, how we made the category selected. So similarly, we will do that like that here also. So in the backend now, so if you remember, we hard coded the choices, right? So in the search, let me open that search bar. So the product, the category, and the price were hard coded options. But then what we can do is we can, instead of hard coding them, we can declare them in the backend itself and pass that to the Jinja template. So along with the parameter and the query, I'll also have a parameter list, or let's say parameters, and this will basically be a dictionary. So I can have C name, which is category name, P name, which is product name, and price, which is price. So if we pass this parameters to the template, we can then iterate over each parameter and add that as an option in the search bar. So let me quickly do that. So in each of these, we will add that. Okay, yeah. I don't need to, yeah, I need to send the param also here, although it's not doing anything, but then I can send it. Let's not send it for category, but then, yeah, so for this one, we will send param and p name, but will also send the parameters. And similarly here we will send the parameters. So if I send the parameters now, and I'm also sending the param in this case, so what will happen is, okay, so first of all, uh, we have the CNAME, the PNAME, and the price. So in the front end, while in the search bar, instead of hard coding this, we will iterate over each parameters. So what we will do is we will do for parameter in parameters, and then we will run a loop. So we will show the option. So right now this is basically same as what we had earlier. So we'll have the CNAME, PNAME, and price. So instead of the text being the same also, this will basically be the value of that. So the text should be category name, product name, and price. But now we will also add the fact that if it is same as the param, then it should be selected. So let me also quickly change this price to max price. All right. So here now what we will do is we will do an additional checking. So we will see that if the parameter, which is we are currently iterating over, equals the param which is being sent, and this also has to exist first. So if param exists and the parameter is equals to the param, in that case the option basically will be, so let me just get that option. Yeah, so here we will have that the same thing, which is value is parameter, and then the text is parameters of parameter, but here we will have the selected tag. And then the same thing we will have in the else also. So let's say we have a else. So here also we'll have the same thing, but instead of it being selected, it will just be unselected. So let's see if it's working now. All right. So as you can see now, the parameter equals price. So the price is selected. If I go to home, it is not select. Okay, wait, something is not correct. Yeah, I have not sent that in the last one, the default one. Parameters equals parameters. All right. Yeah, so in the home, it is just the first one, so the default one. And let's say I search for electronics in category, so it is selected as category. And then if I go to product name and search for, let's say, speaker, so this is now still in product name. And if I go to max price and say search for 500, it is stuck at 500. So the search term which was there, it is not here till now, but we will do this now. So the left part is done, the right part, the search query, we will now always show even after the search is done. So one simple way to do this is in the input, we can add the default value, right? So here, let's say we have the value. So if we have a static value, what will happen is basically, so let's say I have something like 1, 2, 3. So it will always show that value when we reload. But instead of putting a static value, what we can do is we can add the query. So although we have not passed the query, we have only passed it either as pname or price, but we can also pass the query to it. So it will always show the query as a query. All right. So if I pass the query here and in here, so
Actually,
then
I'm
if,
not getting that query as query. Can you repeat it once?
yeah, so basically the query is what we are inputting here, right? So when we are writing
Yeah.
something and then submitting, so that is stored as the query, a variable. So if we then pass it again as the query in the front end, so we can simply put it in the text. So when basically the page is reloaded, the what we searched for earlier
Okay.
will still be there.
Okay. Okay. You're just trying to get the value selected here in the center. Okay.
Yeah. So now you can see the 500 is being shown here. So similarly, if I go to, let's say, product name and I do earphones and I search, so earphones is searched, and also what was searched earlier is still there. And similarly for category name, if I search for, let's say, food, so the food category is there. Oh yeah, one thing I think we added which is causing this. Uh, Yeah, so in the category, we should not send the param. Yeah, so if you're searching for the food category is shown and nothing else is shown. And also what we search for is retained in the search bar. So if you want to, let's say, just modify a search a little bit, we can just come here and change it instead of retyping everything from scratch. So hopefully this is clear, right? So we implemented the basic search functionality. So just let me know if there's any doubts in this. So we can also add like other things and other filters also. So there are multiple ways to implement search. So I have not gone much in depth of it, but then yeah, so this is the basic way you can start from this. And if you want, you can then upgrade it to a better search also. So now let's see if I can just simply make this a little smaller. So in the front end, we have in the search bar, yeah, so this select is there, and then this input is there. So maybe the selects width I can somehow control. So let's create a style tag here. And for this one, which is, let's say, ID parameter or class parameter, I can set the width to maybe 200 pixels. Okay, so this is not working. All right, so let me try with maybe important. Now it became a little bit bigger, so maybe this is too much. Let's see if this is even working. Okay, so this is not working because we have basically put it inside the input group, and input group is something which is managed by Bootstrap. So the Bootstrap styling is basically get more privilege than our styling. So one way we can do this is we can remove it from the input group and put it inside our own div so that we can style it, or we can keep it like this also. So we'll have to see how we can change the size of it. So let's see 1 second. Let us see how to set size of elements inside input groups Bootstrap. So usually we'll get, yeah, a way to do this, right? So let's see sizing. Yeah. So we can, okay, so this is just the small, default, and large, but then the horizontal sizing, I don't think it's there. Let us see. Yeah, I don't see something of that here. So what we can do is we can also ask ChatGPT, and it is used to enhance the functionality. So you can use the sizing. Yeah, so this is just small, medium, and large. But let's say how to set the size of, uh, so not size, but the width of elements inside input group. Okay, so we can use the W50 to maybe set the width to 50%. So let's try that. So for this select, we will put W50. All right, so now it's very big, right? So instead of putting it in here, let us put it in this search bar. All right, so now this search is big and this is smaller. So yeah, I'll not delve deeper into how to do this. So we can also do this by ourselves. So Tanishk is asking, can we add a new filter in the same filter bar under a first filter for, like, suppose X category, arrange in low to high or most sold, or we have to make a new adjacent filter or further filtration? Uh, so can we add a new filter? Yeah, so bits, let's say what you're trying to do is basically sorting, right? So yeah, so, or let's say even if you want to do two separate filtrations, so you want the category name as electronics, and then inside that you want the product name as something. So maybe there is sound system inside electronics also, sound system inside furniture also, and you want to only search for sound systems that is inside electronics. So you want two filtration. So yeah, so for the way we have implemented it right now, you cannot do this. But let's say you want to add that functionality. So as I was saying, right, so the way you can do this is instead of having a drop down which just selects one thing which you search for and then giving the search query, what you can do is instead is have two separate search bars. So let's say search bar 1 and search bar 2, and this one will be for the category and this one will be for the products. So this will actually be even simpler to implement from the backend side. So you just have the category that is being searched for and the product that is being searched for. So every time you filter for the category in the backend and every time you filter for the product in the front end, and whatever is the end result, you show that. So this will always be an and. So this and this will be done. So yeah, if you want, we can also try to do that. But then yeah, so I'll commit this and then we'll try to do that also. So just let me know if up till here is fine. So we'll just catch up to this, and then after this we can also try the multiple filters thing, right? So yeah, and then there's only there's not much left for us to cover. So we'll just do some part of the car, the yeah, the card thing and the search bar functionality. So we'll try to add the multiple filters today. All right, so yeah, let's take a break of uh, 20 minutes. So yeah, just catch up to this and then we'll resume at 12 today. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So hopefully you are back and you've synced up to the changes which we did till now. So yeah, let us see now how we can make another type of the search. So till now we have seen how to do this type of search where we can either search for category name, or we can search for product name, or we can search for the max price, and only one of the searches we can do at a time. But now let's say we want to combine multiple searches, right? So we want to search for some category name also, and then also search for some product name inside that, and also for some price. So let us see how we can do that. So this was one type of search bar. So now let's try to make that instead. So in there we will have, instead of a drop down and a input, we will have multiple inputs. So we'll have one for category, one for product, and we'll have one for the max price. All right. So we'll have to make some changes. So first of all, in the search bar, so let's just remove everything for now, and we'll add the things again. So let's delete everything inside the form, and in the index, so let us remove the uh, conditional checking which we are doing for now. And in the routes, we are doing some checkings. So let us first of all not create anything like this, and then not do any other checking, and simply return the categories. So this will bring us back to the previous state which we had. So just the list of all the categories and the products, and no search bar. So now let us quickly implement a similar search bar with multiple inputs. So what we'll do is, in the search bar now, instead of having different uh, inputs, so we had like this, right? So but instead of that, we will now do just one, like three inputs. So we'll have input for the C name, and input for the P name, and input for the price. So something like this. So we'll have a category input, we have a product input, and we have a max price input, and we have a search button. So let me remove this. All right. So we basically create three inputs inside the input group so that they are aligned left to right. And the inputs are basically of type text, and except the last one. So the price should be typed number. So in the inputs, we basically name them as CNAME, give the ID as CNAME, and we'll also set the value as CNAME so that when the controller sends back the CNAME, we can put it here. So if someone has searched already for something, we can show that here as we were doing earlier. And then instead of writing another label, I have just put it in the placeholder instead. So 1 second. Yeah, so I have the category written in the category. So if I type something, it will go away, but then in the placeholder, it's there. Similarly for the product and for the max price. All right. So now let us see how we can do this in the backend. So in the routes, we will have to get all the things which is passed. So the C name and the P name and the price. So let us come here in the backend, and instead of this, let us now fetch the three things. So the C name is request.args.get C name, and then similarly the p name is equals to request.args.get p name, and the price is equals to request.args.get price. So we get all the three things. And if you remember what we did earlier, basically for the C name, which is the category name, we'll do the filtration here itself. So let's have it here. So for the category name, we'll do the filtration. So we'll see if the C name does exist. So what we will do is we'll just do the categories searching using the backend. So using the model. So we'll do category.filter.query.filter, and we'll not check for equality, but what we will do is we'll do the category.name.ilike. So we will see if the search which is given, it exists somewhere inside the category name, whether in uppercase or lowercase. And so we will change the categories array to just that filtered array. But for the other two, we will not do anything in the backend. So we will simply pass them to the template. So here now, along with the categories, we'll pass the CNAME, we'll pass the PNAME, and we'll pass the price to the front end. So the search bar already uses that CNAME and PNAME and price to put it back in the value. But now we'll in the index, we'll have to also do the searching part. So we remove the search checking. So let us now put it back. So for the CNAME, we don't have to do any checking because it is done directly by the backend. So for the PNAME and price, now we'll do the checking. So now we are checking for both the conditions, right? So if let's say someone has entered product name of A, and there are two products, both are like both have the letter A in their name, and one is, let's say, priced 100 rupees and then another is priced 200 rupees. So if I now put the max price as 150, so it should not only filter all the products and show me just these two, but then it should also not show this one. So the both the filters should be acting using a AND condition. So we'll check for both of them. How we'll do is, one way we can do it is by nesting the if. So as you saw earlier, the if was getting pretty long. So instead of making a long if, we can nest the ifs. So first I'll, not this. So first I'll check if the PNAME is sent. So if PNAME is sent, or let's say if PNAME is not empty, then what we will do is we will check if that exists. So if that string, which is PNAME, if that lowercase version of that exists inside the product dot name. So if that is the case, then we will show the card, and but let's say the PNAME is not there. In that case, also we will show the card. So we'll also do or not PNAME. So in both the cases, we will show the card. So if the PNAME is sent and it matches with the card, then we will show, or if the PNAME is not sent at all, so the user does not want to do a search, then also we will search, we will show that card. And then similarly, let us also do for the price. So we'll also check if price is present and not empty. Then we will basically check if the price is lesser than or equal to the given price. 1 second. Yes. So what we will do is we'll check if that price is greater than or equal to the product dot price, or basically if the product dot price is less than or equal to that price, then we will show that card. But we'll also show it if that if price is not set at all. So if the user has not done any filtration on price, then also we will show the card. So we don't have to check at that time. So what we will do is we will then also close this if. So this is basically a nested if. So let me indent this so that it's clear. So this if is basically inside this if. So we have two ifs now. 1 second. Yeah. So we have two ifs, and in the backend now, let us do also some other checkings. So the price, as you remember, is a string which we get from the parameter. So if we just do the comparison here, it will give us an error that you cannot compare a float and a string. So let us also see if the price is given, then we will convert it into a float. So we'll see if price is there, then we will try to basically convert the price to float. And as you remember, the user can also enter some text. So in that case, the conversion will fail. So in that case, we will basically tell them that, okay, this is an invalid price, and we'll send them back. And even if the price is, let's say, lesser than 0, then also we will tell them it's an invalid price and send them back. But if that's not the case, then we'll basically just convert the price from a string into a float. All right, and that's also basically, if it's none, we'll just replace it with an empty string instead. All right, so let's save this and reload this here. So as you can see, we don't have any filter right now, so everything is being shown. So let's say I now want to search for things in the electronics category only. So let's say I search for elec. So now you can see only the electronics category is being shown, and that what we are searching is still retained here. So now let's say inside the electronics, I want to search for only products which contain the letter O. So makes no sense, but then I'm just demonstrating how the searching works. So now we are only in the electronics. So if I just search for the products with letter O, Okay, maybe that is not the best letter to search for. So let me show you some other letter. Let's say, so E exists in these two, this one also, and then these two also. So let's say I search for the letter E, then we get earphone, speakers, table, rice, and pulse. But if I then combine it with elect, so I get only electronics and then the things in electronics, which is earphones and speakers. So just electronics give me laptop also, but then this gives me only these two. And now let's say my price budget is 1,500. So out of these two, only the earphones should be showing. All right. Yeah. So perfect. So we've basically implemented multiple filters also. So this is one way you can do a search bar, and the previous one was another way you can implement a search bar. So both are valid ways to do searching. So both will fetch you basically the marks for implementing the search functionality. So this you can do if you want to let the user have even more control over the search, right? So if you want to let them filter through multiple categories like at the same time. So the category, the product, and then the price also. So just let me know if this is clear, and then we'll move on to the cart part. Clear, right? Yeah. Perfect. All right. So let me also add a simple button here, which will clear everything or basically go back to the home page in the search, and then we can move to the cart. So in the search bar, let's say I have all these inputs and then the button. So before the button, let me also have an anchor tag with the class button and then button outline danger. And what this will do is this will basically go to the URL for index. So it will go back to index without any query parameters, right? So, and here we say basically clear. So I'll add some icon, which is let's say times, or let's say maybe not times, maybe the trash icon. So I'll do trash. Yeah, so I'll show the trash icon and I'll have the clear search, and then I'll get this button. So if I click this, we will, okay, 1 second. Okay, yeah. So if you're going back to the index, then so if we are simply just coming to the home, it's giving us an error, right? So in our search, what we did was we had the float set to none. So if the float was not there, then we were uh, basically setting it as none. So if let's say someone did not give anything, so we got none here. So one thing which we can do is we can either set it to a very big price as the default, or what we can do is we can, in the index where we are filtering, so we should check for not this, but then just the price exists or not. So let's see if this works. All right, yeah. So we should just check if the price exists. So because the backend is just taking care of everything else. So if the price exists, then we are sure by the time we are getting to the render template, it is already validated for it being a valid float. But then if it does not exist, that means it was not given. All right, yeah. So we are the normal non-filtered view is also fine. And even if we filter for something, so it's coming. And then if we click on clear, it will basically send it back to the home page. So this is one quick way to clear the filters. And maybe instead of trash, I can make it backspace. All right, so instead of this trash icon, maybe I can have this backspace icon. So yeah, these are just some minute improvements. So you can also have a clear button to remove all the search queries. All right, so now let's see how we can add the cart and the products pages. So we can add to cart. So we have already added some items to the cart. So now let's see how we can see the cart. So first of all, we'll have to create the routes for that. So here we will create a route for the cart. So we create the cart route, which will be authenticated, and it will be called cart. And for the cart, what we do is we don't just do query cart.query.all. So we don't get all the cart that is present in our database, because the cart database will contain details of every user's carts. But we only want the current user to see the cart items of their, like the cart products that is in their cart. So we basically filter the cart by only the rows that have the user ID equals to the current user's ID. So we get only those cart items, and we basically render that in a cart.html template. So let us create that real quick. Not here, inside the templates, we'll create cart.html. So this will show the cart page. So let us first extend from the layout which we have so that we get the header and the error messages. And here we'll have the two blocks. So j.block content and j.block style. All right. So for now, let me just put something in here. So now if I go to /cart, we get the cart page. So we can now start designing this. So let's say I put a heading here, h1.display1, and I write cart. And in here, then we will display all the items that they have in their cart. So for the home page, maybe a cart design is fine, but then usually for the cart page, what we will do is we will show it in a table format so that it's clear what they have in their cart. So yeah, let's create, first of all, let's put a horizontal rule, and then let's create a table. So in that table, we will have basically all the cart items. So first we will have a T head. So in the T head, we'll have all the header elements. So all the columns I want to show. So I'll show the product name, the quantity which they have added to their cart, the price, the subtotal, which is basically the quantity times the price, and then the actions. So we can have maybe a remove from cart action also in here. And then for the T body, we basically will have the for loop, right? So j dot for, and we'll create a for loop which runs over each cart element. So I think it's sent as carts, so we can do for cart in carts. And for each cart element, we can simply create the tr, which will be the row, and inside the row we will have all the td, which is the data. So for the name, we can simply do cart.product.name. So if you remember in our models, we had just the user ID and the product ID, right? So we don't have any product details inside the cart. But in the product, we had this relationship, right? And we had the backref of product. So from the product, we can access all the carts using the carts. And from each cart, we can access the product using the backref product. And this will give us access to the entire product object. So everything inside, like the name and the price, we can access using that. So I can simply do cart.product.name, and we will get the name of that product. And similarly, we can also do the quantity. But the quantity, we will obviously not do cart.product.quantity because that will be the total number of items present in our warehouse. But instead, we want the cart.quantity. So this is basically directly stored in the cart. So we will use that. And then the price, and then the subtotal is basically just a multiplication. So that we can do directly in here. So quantity times price. And then finally the actions. So currently, let me change this and not have this because we don't have this endpoint. So we'll add this later. But currently, let me make this empty or just a hash. So we'll just see how the styling is right now. We'll have a remove button which will remove that cart item, and then finally we'll end the for loop. So after the body, what we need is the t footer. So the t footer is basically the footer of the table, and here we will show the total. Right. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, which are the columns of the table. So the first 3 columns we will take to span. So the in the final, we'll have the total, and we'll just ask it to span 3 columns so that just below the subtotal of each of the items, we can have the grand total. So we can name it total or grand total, and we can show the total. So I don't think we have sent the total. So what we have to do is in the backend also get the do the calculation of the total. So total will basically be the sum of all the cart.product.price times cart.quantity. So we go over each cart item and we take its quantity and its price. So same as what we did here. and we multiply them, and then we sum all those values. So we sum all those grand total, sorry, subtotals, and we get the grand total as a value total, and we'll just pass that as well. So total is total. So then we can directly add it in the template, and we will then have the checkout button. So checkout is basically same as buy now. So this will finalize their whatever it is in their cart and put it in their my order. So let's see if it's working now. All right. So as you remember, we carted a earphone and a speaker. So that is now showing us in our cart. So this was 500 and this was 2000. So we have those, and then the total is 2500. So let me add some other things to cart as well. So first, let me actually change the available so that we have multiple things to cart. I'll log in as the admin, and I'll open, let's say, the electronics, and I'll make the quantity as 100. And maybe same for some other things. All right, so let me log out now and log in as the normal user. All right, so now you can see that laptop, there are 100 available. So let me cart two of them. So I want to buy two laptops. So now if I go to the slash cart, you can see laptop, there are two, and each is 60,000, but then the subtotal is 1,20,000. So this multiplication is also working, and then the grand total calculation is also working. Let me just make this bold. All right, and yeah, oh, my bad, not this, but this one. So let me make this bold. All right, so yeah, so we have this table where we can see all the things we have, and we can also remove the items from the cart. So this part is not something which we have created. So this endpoint we have to create, and then obviously this checkout endpoint also we have to create. So from this cart, the user is able to do two things. He can remove something from his cart, and we can also change the quantity, but then I will not handle that here again, because then we have already handled that once here. So what we'll do is we'll just let them remove it from the cart, and if they want to change the quantity, they can remove and then come back here and add it accordingly how much they want, and then they can finally check out. So we can have the button here, or we can have the button below also, so that's totally fine. And once they click the checkout, what should happen is the cart should now become empty, and all the items of the cart should then be added to their transaction. So let's see how we can do that. So first I'll tackle the remove one because it's easy. So we'll add a route in our routes. So this was the cart route. Then we'll have the remove from route. So remove from cart. So one thing we can do is we can do cart ID delete. So we'll basically get the cart ID and we will delete whatever cart item is provided. So this is also simple authentication, not admin, and then this will be called delete cart. So what we do here is we get the cart item from the database by querying using the ID. And if it does not exist, obviously we will give the usual error and we will go back. But if it does exist, we simply just delete it from the session and then we commit, and then we give the message that it's done, and then we redirect to the cart. So this endpoint is pretty simple enough. So in the cart, we'll just have to link to that. So right now we have a anchor tag to nothing. So let us change that. So this will now become URL for, and the name of that is delete cart. And if you remember, we have one ID which we have to provide to that as well. So the ID will simply be this cart.id. So now if you can see, the URL at the bottom is coming. So this is cart1 delete, this is cart2 delete, this is cart3 delete, etc. So there is one more validation which we should do in the backend. So anyone, any ideas? What should we check? So for the delete, we have checked if that uh, exists. So if that cart entry exists in our database, if not, we are giving an error message. But then what other thing should we check before deleting? Any ideas? So what should a user be not able to delete? It should be available. No, so even if it's not available, and I let's say I added it to the cart and then it became unavailable, so I removed it. That's fine. But then if I want to remove it from the cart, so what should I check before I actually let the user do some operation on the database? So this is basically letting the user do some operation, right? So if I click this button, it comes here, and if that exists, it's basically deleting something from the cart. So admin can do any changes he wants, but then what should we check for a user before we let them do some changes in the database? Any idea? All right, no worries. So yeah, so what's the thing which we have to check is also that whether the thing he is deleting is actually belonging to him or not. So we cannot let a user delete someone else's card. So as you can see here, we are getting the link which is card/1/delete, card/2/delete, card/3/delete. So a user can easily understand. Okay, so these are the IDs. So maybe let me come here and edit the URL myself and let me do card/4/delete. So the 4 can might as well already exist and it may be belonging to some other user. So right now we are not checking whether that is belonging to this current user or not. So what this will do is one user can delete someone else's card, and that is something that should never happen. What we will do is after checking if it exists, we'll also check if the card dot user is same as the current user. So we'll check if card dot user ID is not same as the session dot user ID, then we'll say you're not authorized to access this page or something like that. And only if the card belongs to this user, we let them delete the item. All right, so let's see if it's working. So we have earphones, and if we remove this cart deleted successfully, so we now don't have that. So similarly, we can delete everything one by one. And this checkout button should actually not be there if we don't have anything in the cart. And actually nothing, like the entire table should not be there if our cart is empty. So let us also see how we can do that. So inside the cart, the entire table, what we will do is we will wrap it inside a if condition. So we'll do j.if if cart, or we can do if cart length is greater than 0. So only if that is the case, then we show this table, otherwise we don't show this table. So now you can see it's not showing anything, but then this is also a bit confusing. So whether the page crashed or something happened. So what we will do is we'll also add a else tag here. So we'll add a else tag, and we'll do so if it does not, so there is nothing in the card, we will just show them some message, right? So let's say, yeah, we can add this alert. It added too many things here. So if it does not exist, then we'll just show them an alert that cart is empty. So I think that should be enough. Yeah, cart is empty. We can also style this in a better way, so that's totally up to you, but then a basic message is enough. All right, so let us also see how we can now add this cart into the nav bar, right? So right till now I have been going to the URL to get to the cart. So let us add the cart in our nav bar also. So in our nav bar, if you remember, we have all the links to all the places. So we are checking if the user is authorized and authenticated. Only then we are showing them the index and the profile page. And otherwise, we are showing them the login page. So now here is another thing which we have to check. So if he is like logged in, we will show these two. If he is not logged in, we will show him these two. But if he is logged in and he is not an admin, only then we show him the cart and the orders page. So for a normal, like for an admin, we don't show him the cart page. And then similarly, if we, let's say, create a dashboard page later, we won't show that dashboard page for a user. So we also have to have another check in here. So the home and profile is something which we show to both of them. But for the cart, we will only show it to the user. So we'll do a check whether the user, which is belonging to this user. So we'll see if that is an admin. So one way we can do is, because we're already inside this, if we can do session user ID. But then, okay, so we actually need to get the user from the database. So we can't do the checking directly inside the template. So what we need to do is we need to pass it in the routes. But then if you remember, the navbar is not a separate template itself, so it's included in each template. So what we have to do is basically in every route we have to include the user. So we have to send the user. So we have to basically change all of these routes. So right now I won't be adding this check, but then yeah, if we want to do that, so what we'll do is for each route we will send the user also. Basically user is user, and then in the template directly we can check whether the user is admin. So we can do user dot is admin. So I won't be doing this now because we basically have to change all the routes otherwise. But then yeah, feel free to play around with this one. So this if is, yeah, we don't need this if also. Yeah, so right now I'll just show all of the links, and inside we will handle what should be shown. So let me just add another li, and this one will be for the cart page, cart or carts. Let me just see. Yeah, it's cart, and it will be called. So now I have this cart page, and if I come here, it's here. If I go to the home, it's the home. All right. So we have added the add to cart functionality, and we have added the cart page. So if I add something to the cart, so let's say I add 2 laptops to the cart, and I add 1 speaker to the cart. So the cart will show me. Okay, wait, it should not show empty. Uh, Something is not correct in this. All right, yeah, my fault. So the name of the variable is carts. So we have to put an S here. All right, yeah. So if it is empty, then it will show cart is empty. But if we add something, then it will show all the details in the cart. All right, so we have done this as well. So the only thing left now to do is the checkout functionality. So this is just a button. So clicking this will just send a request to the checkout endpoint, which will, what it will do is it will take everything in the cart and remove it from the cart and create a entry of for each of the items inside the orders table instead. So let's do that real quick because this is not too much of work, and then we will basically sync up. All right, so in the routes, let us add now the checkout endpoint. So instead of, we won't have this, but what we will have is a checkout. All right, and for checkout, we don't actually have to provide anything because all the details of the cart is already stored in the database. So we simply just do checkout, and this should also ideally be a post because this is a change which we are making. So we'll make it a method post. And also this one should be a method post. So let us also change that first, because the deleting from a card is also something which is a change which we are doing. So this should ideally also be a post. All right. So what we can do is we can come back to this cart page and the place where we are creating the links. So instead of an A tag, which we will have to make it a submit button basically. So button type submit, and this will also be a button. And instead of the href here, what we will do is we will cut this and we will have this inside a form. So we'll have a form of type post, and the action will be to that URL. And the method is post, and we'll just remove this and put it at the end. All right. So in the form, we just have one button, which is of type submit by default, and we'll have the text remove in it. So let's see if it's working. All right. So yeah, everything is same, but then if I click this, yeah, the deletion also works exactly the same. All right. So just make sure if you're making something which is not idempotent, so that it's a post instead. All right. So after this, we'll have the checkout, which is slash checkout, and this one will be a method equals post. And this one will also require authentication, and this will be called checkout. We don't need to provide anything to this, but then everything will be fetched from the database itself. So in our cart now, instead of this being a link, we will also have to basically do the same thing, right? So this will be like this. And instead of the URL being delete cart, this will be, sorry, this will be checkout. And we don't need to give anything as a parameter. And so this will be a success button, and this will be, let us see. All right. Indentation error in here. Yeah. Okay. So let me just something. Yeah. So this is still working. Okay. And this one should not say remove. So this one should say checkout. All right. So now in this route, let us define what will happen. So first of all, we'll have to get all the things that is present in our cart. So we'll do carts equals the cart.query.filter by the current user. So we'll get all the things that is present in the current user's cart. And then we will basically for each item, we will remove it from the cart and we'll add it into the orders. So what we'll do is, first of all, we'll see if the cart is empty. So if it's empty, obviously we cannot check out. So we'll say cart is empty. And usually the user cannot even press this button. But let's say they manually went to this URL, then also we should not do anything. So we'll just return them back to the cart. But if not, then what we will do is, first of all, so because they're now checking out, we'll create a new transaction. So we'll create a new transaction for this current user. So if you remember in our models, we have a transaction object, which the ID is automatic, and then the user ID and the date time is stored. So we'll create a transaction with the current user's ID, and the date time will be current date. So we can just use datetime.datetime.now to get the current date time object. So we have created the transaction. So now for each item, we will basically do two things. First of all, we'll add that to the orders, and then we will remove it from the cart. So we'll do a for loop. So for cart in carts, we will do basically two things. So first of all, we will create the order object. So we'll create a new object, which is order. So if you remember in our models, we have an order object, which is similar to the cart object, and it has just a few extra things, which is the price. So we'll go to, we'll create a new order object, and we'll set the transaction to this new one which we created, and the product to the product belonging to this cart, and the quantity and the price also. So the price we get not from the cart, but from the product.price. So we create a new object and we remove, so we don't do this, but then what we will do is we will delete the cart totally. So cart.product. Okay, yeah. So yeah, we do need to do this. So this is basically removing, like, so let's say I bought two items, so it will decrement the total number of items present in our inventory by that. So once we are adding it to cart, we are not doing it, but then once we have actually sold the item, we reduce the total amount present by that amount. So let us also do a checking here. So although it should not be possible for the user to get to a state where that is not possible, but let us also see if the quantity is valid. So we'll see if the cart.product.quantity is less than the cart.quantity. So then we will say it is not present. So that is out of stock, and we will redirect them to the cart. But then let us also then remove that from their database. So instead of redirecting them to the cart, let us redirect them to the delete cart. and give the ID of that card. So we will also remove it from their card automatically. And obviously this will then redirect them back to the card itself. So that is fine. So what we do now, so if the quantity is fine, so if it is less than something which is in our stock, so we just decrement the quantity from our database, and then we add the current order into our database, and then we remove the cart from our database. And we basically do this for all the items. And once it's done, what we do is we also add the transaction to our database. And finally, we commit all the changes which we have made. So basically for each checkout, we go over all the items in their cart and we just perform one last check if the quantity is valid or not. And then we basically take out each item from the cart and put it into their order. And we also reduce that quantity from each available products quantity. So then we'll just show them a message that, okay, order placed successfully, and then we will send them to the maybe the cart page or the orders page. So right now I don't have the orders page, so let me redirect him to the cart page itself. And after we created the orders page, we can change this to the orders page. All right, so let's see if it's working now. So we have, let me add a few more things to the cart. So I have only one speaker and only one earphone. So let me add a earphone also, and let me add a laptop. All right, so I think earphone did not work. 1 second. Why is it not working? Why am I not able to? If I add to cart for a earphone, we're just coming back to this page without any message, and it is not adding. So if I, let's say, what is available more? Table. So if I add a table, we are getting added successfully, and yeah, it's also there here. But if I add a earphone, it's not able to add. Why is this the case? Uh, any idea, anyone? Why this may be the case? Let us see the add to cart endpoint. So we are getting the product. If not product, then we flash something. Then we're getting the quantity. So if the quantity is wrong, then we flash something. So either way, we are always flashing something, and the cart is then fetched, and then it's seen if that product exists or not. So obviously that product does not exist in our current cart, so we don't have any earphones in our cart. So we will get to this else, and then we create and we add and then we commit. So yeah, why will we be redirected to this page without this working? All right, let us try to debug this. So one thing we can do is we can open the network tab, and we can see all the requests being sent. So if I press this, all right, so we have a request sent to the main page itself. So 1 second. If I do this, all right, so this is a request sent to add to cart, and then we are coming back. Okay, so this itself is not sending a request correctly. So that the button itself of this one, so the other buttons are sending a request to add to cart, but this one is not sending the correct request. So try it again. So if I clear this and then I add to cart one earphones, so it's just coming back to the index page. So why is that the case? Also, when we are adding this to cart, we are coming back to the index page, but then if we are adding this to cart, then we are getting the search parameters instead. So there is something obviously wrong with this add to cart. So maybe in the uh, index or somewhere where we have defined this button. So this add to cart ID is product ID. So the product should exist just like every other product. Um, yeah, so the URL, so this is automatically generated for each. So this button should ideally be the same for this one also. So I'm not exactly sure why this is happening. If I'm missing something, do let me know. I think it will be some silly mistake again, which we are overlooking. So if I'm adding the earphones, we are not sending a request to the add to cart at all. So let me remove the images for now so that there are not so many requests. So just 1 second. Yeah, I'll just comment this out. All right. And why do we have so many JavaScript requests? Okay, maybe some extensions which we have. All right. So if I, let's say, add to cart a laptop, we get a request to the add to cart endpoint. And okay, so it's returning a found. That's fine. And then it is also giving us a success message. And then that is redirecting us to the home page. But if we are adding a earphone, then it is directly coming back and along with the search parameters. So something is wrong. So I'll have to debug this. I can't think of why this might be the case immediately. Maybe something to do with the search itself or the search controller in the index. So in our index, we are doing some request.arg. So maybe because of that. So I'll just look into this and get back tomorrow if I can't debug it today. But then, yeah, so let's continue with what we were doing till now. So we have the things in our cart. So now we can do the checkout, and this should basically remove everything from our cart and put it in our orders. So let's see. Yeah. So the order placed successfully and the cart is empty. So now if I go to the DB, so the cart, if I reload, yeah, it's gone from the cart, and the orders now has the all the total details. So all the ID, all the transaction, all the products, and the quantity and the price at which we bought it is now stored. So now the add to cart is also done. So the only page left for the user is the uh, my orders or my earlier orders. So we'll do this and then we will do the rest of the things tomorrow. So we have a few things left, which is like the PDF exporting and then how to zip the project and all. So we'll do that along with the out of stock functionality tomorrow. So let's take a break now and sync up to the cart functionality, and then we'll do the orders after this. So let me push all the changes till now. A checkout, it should create a random transaction ID, right? Yeah, so the way we are handling it is because transaction is primary key, right? So ID, so SQL Alchemy just creates a auto increment ID. So each time it's like ID1, ID2, ID3, ID4. So it's incrementing on its own. We can also handle that in the backend by creating a random ID, and we'll also have to check if that exists in the database or not, and basically keep on generating random until it is a unique one. But then, yeah, SQL Alchemy handles that for us by simply incrementing it by one. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So let's say I again add something to our cart. So now you can see from 100 it became 98 because we bought 2. So let me again add 1 to my cart. So right now I have 1 laptop, and maybe I again add 2 more. So now I have 3 laptops total in my cart, and if I do checkout, so now it will create another entry which will basically have another ID. So ID is basically incrementing automatically from 1 to like this.
So basically, it moves the products from cart to order,
Yes,
and it creates a transaction for it. Correct?
yes, exactly. Yes, yes. So it'll create. So basically, that's what we did in the that route. So the checkout route. 1 second. Is basically, first of all, it's fetching all the things that is in our cart. So it will not delete the entire database of cart, but only the rows that belong to the current user.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it will fetch all those cards, and then it will first create a transaction, and then for each cart item, it will basically create an order. So it will one by one move each row from the cart table into the order table, and then it will also create the transaction.
do a checkout and a transaction is created such that
Yeah,
imitating a payment is done.
yeah.
Something.
Yeah. So we'll also have to check the payment thing. So that we're not doing in this one, but then obviously, and the checkout will also check the payment. Uh, Tanishka is saying also, I think the glitch is because in previous order, I think we added that earphones and available is 0. Please check orders product with earphone ID. All right, let's see. So we orders product ID, we only have 2, 3, and 4. So because earphone is, one second. So earphones is ID 1. So in our orders, we don't have anything with product ID 1, and cart also is obviously empty. Okay, so let us try to do one thing. Let us add some other, like add some more earphones. So let me open this. So in the earphones right now we have quantity 1. So let's say I make it 100. All right, we have 100, and then let me log out and log in as a normal user. All right, so now it's telling available 100. So if I add one to cart, so let me come to the normal page and add one to cart. No, right? So it's still giving that error. So it's doing the search instead of adding to cart. So no, I don't know. I think some silly mistake is there. We'll have to check why is that happening. So for now, let's do the other functionalities and then we'll come back to this later. So the other buttons are working. So I don't know why only one product is not working. But then yeah. So yeah, we'll fix that tomorrow. Yeah, all right. So let me add all the details. One second. So git add and git commit. So add to cart page and checkout. All right. So I've added all the changes we have made till now to the repository. So just sync up to that and let us resume at, let's say, 115 or 110, whatever is fine.
Maybe one can.
All right. Yeah. So hopefully you're back. So let's continue where we left off. So let me share my screen 1 second. All right. So yeah, what we did till now is we have created the cart page and we can add things to the cart. And yeah, I've found out why this was causing an error. So let me just go over uh, a debugging process so that even I can see how like you should also debug when you're facing some errors. So what we saw is that the other buttons were working fine, right? So 1 second, let me remove this. Yeah, so the other buttons, if you are adding something to the cart, it is working fine. So this is not available, but then yeah, if I'm adding this to cart, it's working. And then similarly, but then if I'm adding this, then we are coming to this search. So the first hint is that obviously this button is submitting not to this form, which should go to the add to cart, but then this form, which is the search. And that makes a little bit sense because as you can see, this is the first button in the entire group, right? So this comes exactly after this. So if we now, let's say, inspect this, so if I open the dev tools, so you can open this by either doing right click and then inspect, or you can press Control Shift J. So if I come to the elements now, and if I do like click this picker, element picker, so I can click this button and I can see that, yeah, this is working exactly fine. So this is a button and it's inside a form, which has an action of add to cart. But if I then pick this button, then you can see this is also a button of type submit of add to cart. So exactly same because we are anyway defining them only one time in a for loop. So uh, everything should be the same. But as you can see, there is no form here. So the quantity input is there, but then there's no form. So if you see, we have this diff quantity input, and then inside we have this form. So that's also the case for this button, but it is not working for this button. So why is that the case? So it's a little bit hard to understand from the code itself, because here we can see we have opened the form, but then here it's not there. So the reason is because HTML in general is a very like forgiving language, right? So even if you make some mistakes, instead of showing a error, what it will do is it will try to guess what it thinks you mean. So the error was actually not in this page at all, but then in our search bar. So if you see, we have opened the form, but then we have never closed the form. So what HTML does, like what most browsers do, is it sees that, okay, a form is opened here and then never closed, and then the next closed form is here. So it just disregards this one and assumes that this is the closing of the search bar. So what we have to do is we just have to close this form correctly. So after this div, we just close the form. So we do slash form. And if we do this now, if I reload this page, then if I do this, as you can see, product added to cart successfully. So yeah, some silly bug, obviously. So we just forgot to close one form, but it can also cause some bugs, which is not very hard to understand at the first time. All right. So we have added the carts page and we have also done the checkout. So the only page left is the orders page where we can see all our transactions. So let's create that real quick. So what we'll do is we'll go to the routes and we will create another route for the orders page. So this will be orders and then it will be auth required and it will be def orders. So in orders, we don't really do anything else anymore. So the placing orders is also done. So here we just see the past orders. So we just fetch the transactions. So again, same as the carts, we don't fetch all of them, but only the ones for this current user. And then we send that to the template. So we render template orders.html. So let us now create that template. So that will be orders.html. And here, let me first extend from the layout.html. And then we'll have the block. So we'll have the block content, we'll have the block style also. So we'll have block content and block style. So in the content, let me just have a h1, which will say orders. So let us now see if it is working. So let us go to the orders. All right, so we have a heading. And what we will do is we will show each transaction in here. So let me put a rule, and then what we'll do is we will do, first of all, we'll check, right? So if we'll see if there are any orders or not. So if there are no orders, then we'll obviously say that you do not have any orders, similar to the cart. But if there is an order, what we will do is we will basically throw the order. So we'll do a for order in orders. So we'll iterate over each orders, but then not orders, right? So we'll do for transaction in each transaction. So for transaction in transactions, we'll go over each transaction, and let me just close all these also. Uh, Otherwise, we may again forget to close something. So end for, and then end if, and we'll have a else also, and then an end if. So if there is no orders, so this will also be transactions. If you do not have any transactions, you have no orders. But then if we do, then we will iterate over each basically. So we'll iterate over each transaction, and inside each transaction. So first of all, let's just show the transaction ID, right? So let us show in an H2 the transaction ID, transaction number, and then the transaction ID. So let's see if it's working now. So yeah, as you can see, we made 4 orders. So while we're testing, we basically created multiple orders and we got multiple transactions. So yeah, that's fine. So let us do some basic styling here. So maybe class equals text muted, and we get a grayish. And then another thing which we can show for transaction. So obviously the transaction does not have much details. The only thing is the user ID and the date. And user, obviously we do not have to show, because obviously the user will only see his transactions. But the date we can show. So let's say I wrap this inside a something to like put the layout in, and then I can also add another, let's say a p tag, which is for its date or date time. So here we can just add the transaction dot date time. I think that is what it is called. Yes. So we can add this, and in the style we can simply just create a basic style of the heading having a display flex row, and space between align items. So then we will have each date also here. So this is currently looking a bit ugly because the entire date and the time along with the millisecond is stored. So we will see how we can style this later. But for now, let's just keep it like this. So maybe we can add a bracket here or something like that. And the font size, maybe we can reduce a bit. All right. So what we do next is we will show for each transaction, we will show them the list of all the things they have bought. So we can do this similar to the cart by using a table. So what we do is inside each transaction, we create a table. So this will be orders or something like that. We can create a div, and then let's create a table here. So in this, we will basically iterate over each, right? So first of all, we will create the heading. So each table will have a few columns. So one will be the product name, the quantity, the price, and then the subtotal. And then in the body, we will have the for loop, which goes over each order in the transaction. So if you remember in our models, in our transaction, we have the orders relationship, right? So we can iterate over them, and for each order in the transaction, we can basically show the orders products name and the orders quantity, the orders products price. Actually, no, we actually want the order price instead. So if you remember, the order stores the price at which it was bought. So not, we will not show the current product's price, but at which it was bought, and similarly the quantity. And the name we do not store, but we get it from the product. So we do order.product.name. And finally, the subtotal is basically order.quantity times order.price. So we show all this, and then we basically, we just show this table. And we can also show the grand total. So let us do this later. Let us just see if this is working for me. So yeah, you can see we have the table for each transaction. So we bought these this one latest laptop and earphone, because we were not able to buy earphones till now. So finally we bought earphones, and then before this we bought all this. So another thing which we can do, which is usually what happens, is the latest transactions are kept at the top and oldest one at the bottom. So we can simply just reverse the order of this. So one way we can do this is in the routes, we can come here, and before doing the dot all, we can also do the order by. Yes. So we can do order by, which will use the SQL order by, and we can tell which column to order it by. So we will order it by the date time, and not in the ascending but in the descending order. So we can do transaction.datetime.descending, and then we can do the dot all to get the list of the transaction. So now if you refresh, you can see we get the transaction 4 at the top, and this is the latest one. All right, so this is the basics my order page. So there isn't much for us to show here. We just show the order history. So that's all we do for this page. So one thing we can do is we can maybe remove this part. So we can just show the hour and the minute. So let's see how we can do that. So as we saw earlier also, date to string is done using str f time or p time. I'm not sure. So string to date is I think strp time, and date to string is strf time. So what we can do is when we are showing the date time, which is in the orders page, here, so we can call, like send a call to datetime.strp time. So I don't think that is present in the Jinja filters itself. So maybe we can do a dot strf time, and we can give it a format, something like this. So let's see if this works. All right, yeah. So you can see now this is in a better format. So we can basically look up what these formats are. So for each thing, like the date, we can use %D, we can %B for the month, but in text format. So JN instead of 01. And we can also use, I think, capital B for the entire word January. So something like that. So these are obviously present as the datetime.strf documentation. So you can look up that. But yeah, so we now make it look a little better with a better format of the date. And so yeah, that's all we have to do for the transaction. So the only thing left for us to do now is the out of stock. So I don't want to add it to today's session as well, because we have already done a lot of things. So we have added the cart and the orders. So let me just add the orders link in the nav bar, and then we will stop for today. So in the nav bar, we can just come here and copy this, and we paste it. And now here, instead of URL for order, URL for cart, we make it URL for orders. And I think, yeah, that is the name. Yeah, orders. And then you can also change this to orders. So now we have the orders page, we have the carts page, and the profile. So another thing which we want to do is in our routes, when we are doing the checkout, instead of redirecting to the cart on a success, what we will do is we will redirect to the orders page. So now if I, let's say, buy some rice, 1 kg rice, and it's now in my cart. So if I do checkout, so now we are sent directly to the orders page. And the first transaction which we see is of the one which we made right now. So yeah, that's all we will be doing for the like user side of the things. So we have implemented the search, we have implemented all the listings, we have implemented cart, orders, and also a profile page to change the password. So tomorrow what we will be doing is we will be seeing some smaller improvements which we can make, like some UI improvements, some other extra extra validations and things like that. We will also see how we can also export things as CSV. So it's not a core requirement, but it is a optional requirement. But that is a core requirement for MAT2. So if you are doing MAT2 in the next term or maybe parallelly, this will also be helpful for you. So we'll just add another button here, which will let us export all these details, transaction details, as a CSV. And tomorrow we will also see how to add the dashboard, right? So for the admin side, if we log in as an admin, we currently just have the ability to add and edit and delete stuff for categories and products. So the cart and the orders usually will not work for them, but we can keep them empty here, or we can add another check that, yeah, for an admin, this page should not exist. But what we will also do is we will create a dashboard page, which will show him the statistics of the current application. So how many users are there, how many transactions have been made, what is the total amount of transaction done, all that. So we will be using the chart.js to create the charts for that. So before tomorrow's session, just go over the basics of what chart.js is. I will also cover like a overview of it, but then we will be using it directly tomorrow. So just look at what chart.js is and how we can use that for creating charts. So yeah, that's all for today. And we will do the a few things. So export as CSV, then print the receipts as PDF, and the out of stock functionality which is left, and the other improvements like charts and all. So yeah, we are officially actually done with all the requirements of the project now. So other than the out of stock, obviously, but then yeah. So tomorrow we'll just make some other improvements, and then we'll also take some other doubts tomorrow. So yeah, just let me know if you have any doubts for all the things which we did today, and we will discuss that. Otherwise, we can end the session. So I'll end the recording now, and then we can discuss the doubts.